Hi, I'm Vicki Hooper, a marriage therapist with Hope Restored for Focus on the Family Canada. In my work, I've often heard couples say these things. I would never have thought this would happen to me. Or I don't know how I got here. Or I never imagined this would be my story. I hear this from many hurting people who find themselves moving towards separation or divorce. If this is your story, I'm deeply sad for you. You are in a very, very painful place. And I wonder, how have you been able to keep going? Every one of us married our spouse for life. We never imagined we would think about separation or divorce. Like many young women, Andrea always dreamed of being married. She loved God and Trevor, and he was her fiancé and hoped to build a godly marriage. But through her 18 years of marriage, she always had a sense that something just wasn't right. And looking back now, she can see that there was emotional abuse back from the start of their relationship. The blame, the criticism, the accusations from Trevor, the twisting of her words, or the denial of what he said when she asked him, made her wonder if there was really something wrong with her and left her feeling she was crazy. He would say she was the one hurting him, and he said she was the one who was selfish and whose standards were too high, and if she could just communicate better, there wouldn't be these issues. For years she tried to please him, and it seemed she could never get it right. Or Carrie's story. Joe was her second marriage. Once they were married, he took control of all their finances, and all she brought into the marriage became his. When she wanted to visit family, her family, he demanded that she would have sex with him before she went. And he would be warm and kind in the morning, but when he came home from work, she wasn't sure what she would get. The smallest thing would set him off into a fit of anger with accusations and name-calling and leaving her feeling worthless and devalued. And Candace thought she had married her Prince Charming. And in the early years, intimacy was good, and they loved each other. But one day, her world crumbled when she saw on their computer he had left it unlocked, and a message popped up from a porn site, and she sat in shock as she read a long chat thread between this woman and her husband. And Jennifer, she knew the drill. Her husband Brad was coming home after detoxing. This has happened so many times, she has stopped counting. This moment was so very familiar to her. Each time he relapsed, she felt disappointment, fear, and discouragement, and it flowed in like a river rising. And again, she knew she would be misunderstood when her family and friends would ask her, "Why don't you just leave him? Haven't you had enough? He'll never change." She could leave, but she knows God has told her to stay, at least for now. I realize that many of these stories are about women. So I want to say from the start, men also struggle with painful situations in their marriage. Daniel was married to Emily for 22 years, and she was the love of his life. He would do anything for her. After all, didn't God want him to love his wife as Christ loved the church? But in all his attempts, it was never good enough. She often criticized him, saying, "Is this all I'm worth to you?" Or, "You're such an idiot. If you want sex, you better do something about that belly. You look awful." If he failed to meet her expectations, he was left in a cold, passive-aggressive place of silence. If he stood up to her, he heard things like this: "Stop being such a wuss," or "Be a man," or It's time you put your big boy pants on. The constant attack left him feeling degraded and helpless. When you meet James, anyone can see this firefighter is in amazing shape. He works out daily and he finds success at work, but at home it's another story. His wife Jen drinks a few glasses of wine at supper and then rages at him for not folding the laundry right or for just about anything he doesn't do right in her eyes. In the last year, it's escalated many times. She's become aggressive and hitting him and throwing things at him, and he's attempted to call the police, but he fears what they will think. These are real stories and real people. These brave men and women became desperate for help, and when they turned to the Christian community for help, they were told to do things like forgive them, go home to your spouse, love your spouse, stop being so selfish. This left them feeling alone in their pain and feeling invalidated, afraid, powerless, misunderstood, and angry. They want to please God, but the marriage they were living was destroying their souls, and they felt stuck. Does God really want me to live in a hurtful, destructive marriage? I don't know why you are struggling in your marriage, but there are many issues that can cause pain and disconnection. It may be that your spouse has had an affair or is still in an affair. It could have occurred some time ago, or maybe you've recently discovered it and your world is shattered. You feel betrayed by their unfaithfulness and you're wondering what to do. Or perhaps for years your spouse has been stuck in an addiction that has broken relationships, eroded trust, compromised your family financially, and leaves you feeling helpless or powerless to stop it or even to help. Perhaps your spouse is trapped in what many are calling the porndemic, or an addiction to pornography. For others, it's substance abuse, or a shopping addiction, or gambling addiction. For some of you, your marriage has been abusive, physically and or emotionally. And you bear those bruises, the scars on both body and your soul. And it doesn't stop there. There could be endless conflict, mental health issues, communication breakdown, financial problems, a lack of intimacy, or even a lack of freedom just to be me. And our differences that were once intriguing are now dividing us. And then there's something called drift. At some point, each spouse's attention, when we used to give focus to each other, has turned from the marriage to individual needs, such as raising children, building our careers, even crises such as caring for a very sick family member, or something like financial struggles. And we no longer prioritize each other. And when we don't, we naturally move apart. We say it's like two pieces of wood on a body of water. They slowly move apart. We experience intense pain when we discover one of these in our marriage and attempt to live with it. Perhaps you've been here for a long period of time. I know you want to please God, and you've tried to find healing. You've looked for support and direction, but things are not changing. It's still the same. You wonder how you can stay in this marriage. What are my options? Is separation an option? Does God approve? I want to take a look at that with you through this video series. And my hope is that you will be encouraged and empowered to make a wise, godly, healthy decision.